Hi, today we are going to be showing you how to make bruschetta. The main ingredient in bruschetta are tomatoes, and I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of steps that you need to prepare before you actually start working with your recipe today. Your first step is to go ahead and take 6 cups of water and boil it in a small to medium-sized saucepan, like I have done here. Boiling water, obviously you guys have learned this in the past, but boiling water means that there are bubbles on the top. The bubbles cannot be stirred away, and it is at a 212 boiling point. After you see that your water has gotten up to that 212 boiling point, you're going to go ahead and remove it from your heat. Okay, you can go ahead and turn your induction burner off. Your next step, as soon as you've taken off that pot from the burner, you're going to go ahead and take your tomatoes and gently, don't splash it because you don't want to burn yourself, place those tomatoes into the water that had just been previously boiling. This is a process called blanching. You don't want to leave these tomatoes in for too long. You're only going to leave them in for about a minute. And when we blanch, what this is doing is kind of lightly removing the skin from the tomatoes. It's kind of loosening up a little bit so that when you take them out, it's nice and easy to peel. So we're going to wait about a minute for the tomato peels to loosen up. As you can see here, my tomatoes have been in the nice hot water for about 50 to 60 seconds. And if you take a look at the tomatoes, the peel is actually starting to remove a little bit by itself. Once that starts to happen, you know that about a minute has passed. You can go ahead and remove your tomatoes from the hot water. Okay, we have just blanched our tomatoes. They just came out of the water. And as you can see in this tomato, the peel is already starting to peel off on its own a little bit. So you might not need a knife to necessarily take it off. And if you see that, you could just simply peel the tomato skin off and set aside or throw it away in your garbage can or garbage bowl. Okay, and if it gets kind of stubborn, you can, kind of with a small knife slice off whatever won't come off. Okay. And you can see in this tomato it doesn't have a tear yet, so what you can simply do is take a small knife like a paring knife and cut a small X on the top, and it'll create that nice and easy start to a peel. And you can just use your fingers to peel that skin off. Alright, and there we go. We have 2 peeled tomatoes. Okay, I've just peeled my tomato, and my next step is to go ahead and remove the juice and the seeds from the inside. So I'm going to show you how to do that on one half of my tomato. I have some juice and some seeds in there, and an easy way to do this is just to take a regular spoon and go over your garbage can or garbage bowl and just kind of scrape out the inside so you get all that juice and all the seeds out of there. Okay, once you have removed the seeds and the juice from the middle of your tomato, you're going to go ahead and take each of the sides of tomato and give them a nice dice. And to dice something, what that means is that all 6 sides are uniform in shape. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You can start by cutting strips of tomatoes all around the same exact size. Kind of keep them clumped together. Give them a good turnaround. And continue cutting so that all of your tomato pieces are the same size, like little cubes. And there you have it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mince our next ingredients. Our 2 next ingredients that we are working with are the garlic and the onion. I'm going to go ahead and mince my garlic up. And when you mince something, you are cutting them into extremely small pieces. You don't want them to be too big because onion and as well as garlic are extremely powerful in flavor. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and mince these up until they are extremely small. You don't want to chop down into a large piece of garlic. That's a little too much flavor going on at one time there. Okay, keep clumping them together. Really want to get them as small as you can. If they get caught up on the side of your knife, just kind of carefully push them off. And you have your minced garlic. Okay, we're going to go ahead and show you how to finely mince up your red onion that is going into your bruschetta recipe. Your teacher is probably only going to give you about 1/4 of an onion, if that, because this recipe only calls for 1 teaspoon of red onion. And if you are somebody that cries while cutting onions, you're definitely going to want to pay attention. I am working on the flat surface so that I don't cut myself. I don't want to work on any round, roly-poly surfaces because the knife can slip. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it on its flat side. I'm going to take my chef's knife. Pay attention to where your guiding hand is placed on top of the onion. You want to bear claw your food, keep your fingers curled back. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut incisions into my red onion. I am not going all the way through the stem side, though, part of the onion. That's the part of the onion that is holding all of the flavor and the aroma in, which is the part of the onion that makes you tear up and cry. So these incisions are only going to that little bulb side. I always tell my students it looks like it has hair. It's that little part with the hair on it. Not actual hair, but like onion hair. Okay. My incisions are made, and to make this a nice fine and easy chop before we bring it to a mince, I'm going to go ahead and butterfly it open. I usually do it about twice, and while you're doing this, you want to keep your onion nice and together. So using your bare claw at the top, go ahead and hold your onion together. Butterfly it open twice, bring it back together, and after your bear claw is nice and secure, you're going to go ahead and chop your onion. Okay, and you want to get all of it. You don't want to waste any onion. Get everything that you possibly can. And then what you have left is the little hairy part that's keeping all that aroma and flavor, not flavor, but aroma and the smell in there that makes you cry. You can toss this out in the garbage can. Okay, we're going to take this rough chop that we just used to cut up our onion, and we're going to turn it into a fine mince. So my chopped onions, I'm going to go ahead and clump them together, and using my chef's knife, I'm just going to lightly bring it across my clump of red onions. Continue to clump as you go. You don't want your onions all over the board. And again, when you are finely mincing something, it's extremely fine, extremely small pieces. It's more to give flavor than to, to act as an ingredient that you're actually chewing and chomping on. Okay, and your onions might get stuck up on the side of your knife. Just kind of push them off. Give it one more mince. Okay, after your onions are minced, you're going to go ahead and read your recipe. Your recipe says that you only need a teaspoon of red onions. So go ahead and gather a teaspoon of red onions. And you are ready to add this to your recipe. Okay, it's time to start adding some of these ingredients for our bruschetta lab together. In my mixing bowl, I have went ahead and mixed together my tomato, my garlic, my red onion, my vinegar, my olive oil, and my mozzarella. And I know you may have heard this in the past, but when reading a recipe, always make sure that you read all of the ingredients list to make sure that there is no kind of pre-step that has to be done with any of these ingredients. In these ingredients, there are two pre-steps that we have to follow. Our fresh basil leaves need to be chiffonaded, and our fresh mozzarella need to be chopped. I went ahead and chopped our fresh mozzarella here. It's just kind of a nice fine chop here, done with my chef's knife. And I see as I'm reading my recipe here that my mozzarella cheese is 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my tablespoon here, and I'm going to measure out 2. 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. Next, I'm going to add my chiffonade basil leaf. I have already done that, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that now. This is my chiffonaded basil leaf. I'm going to throw that into my mixing bowl. To chiffonade something, what you're going to want to do, and when you're chiffonading something, it's basically an ingredient that is leaf-like, like a basil leaf. So I'm going to take this basil leaf, I'm going to go ahead and roll it up. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it a chop. Okay. Keep your fingers curled back and just kind of guide the basil leaf as you are cutting. Always cut the blade away from your body. You don't want any kitchen accidents. Okay? And when you're finished, that basil leaf should kind of resemble confetti a little bit, like so. Okay, once all of your bruschetta ingredients are in your mixing bowl, you're just going to take a spoon and give it a nice mix around so that you're creating that mixture that is, in just a few minutes, going to go on top of your lightly toasted French bread. Okay, it's time to go ahead and slice our French bread, and what you're going to go ahead and do is slice them diagonally, making about a 1/2 inch slice. Make sure that you are going on an actual diagonal slant when cutting. Makes for a nice toast when in the oven. Okay, your bread should look just about like this and like this. And then next we're going to go ahead and take your pastry brush, dip it in just a little bit of olive oil, and you are going to coat one side of your French bread. And you'll have more than 3 slices of diagonally sliced bread, but for this, for the purpose of your demonstration, we're only going to do 3. Okay. Your next step is to go ahead and put these sliced pieces of French bread on a baking sheet, and you're going to go ahead and put them olive oil side down. So the side with the olive oil is going to be facing the actual sheet pan. And I'm going to go ahead and take these over to the oven, and I'm going to place them in the oven for about 5 to 6 minutes, just until my bread begins to look golden brown. Alright, our diagonally sliced bread has just come out of the oven, and it is ready to spoon the bruschetta mixture onto our bread. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and add my salt and pepper to my bruschetta mixture. Your recipe says salt and pepper, capital T, and remember from the past that means to taste. I don't like a whole lot of salt and pepper in my recipe, so I'm just going to put about a pinch into my mixture of pepper and a pinch of kosher salt. I'm going to give it a couple more, mix arounds until I spoon this out onto my toasted bread. Okay, with my spoon, I'm just going to go ahead and spoon 1 spoonful onto each bread slice. If it spills, just kind of pick it back up. My nice chiffonaded basil's on there. That's a little bit more on that one. Okay, and after your bruschetta mixture is on the bread, you're going to go ahead and give a generous, little amount of shredded Parmesan cheese to the top, on top of your tomato mixture. And this is going to go back into your oven just for a couple of minutes until your cheese on the top, your Parmesan cheese, has melted nicely. Okay, my bruschetta mixture has been in the oven for about 2 minutes on top of my already lightly toasted bread. I'm going to go ahead and open my oven, and using my handy dandy oven mitt, take my cookie sheet out, place it on top of my stove, and as you can see, the bruschetta is nice and cooked. It's been in the oven, and our cheese that is on the top has melted. Enjoy.